I think it should be said that I filmed the majority of this around a week or so after their killings happened. A lot in the case has changed since then, so I did do some slight updates here and there in this video, but I am sharing this because I think it's still relevant, and whether you think it's a serial killer or not, or whether I still believe that or not, there is a lot of relevant, interesting info in here. Although I have another theory that I lean pretty heavy on. I go back and forth on what one I think it is. I suggest watching all of my videos on this topic because this theory is a little outdated, but it's still worth a watch for anyone interested in the case. Something extremely important, for anyone who cares. Watch this video in its entirety. And pay attention, please, and thank you for your time.
If you want a real lead, you will listen to the words coming out of my face. If you care at all, if you want something that'll actually help you, if you want an outside, fresh perspective, then you will pay very close attention to the words coming out of my face. I am not trying to sell you anything. I am not trying to promote myself. I am trying to help you out. I'm trying to actually give you real insight on some insane, crazy shit. Like, I might have literally figured it out, which is insane. So listen to my words. I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. Do not be swayed by the other videos that say that they have a new breakthrough in the case. They're lying. Do not fall for all the clickbait bullshit that says new details revealing. No, none of them have anything. I watch too much TV. I've seen all of these videos on this topic. You know, it's so annoying. It's never anything. And so I actually have some groundbreaking shit. Do not waste your time with the other videos. I'm going to tell you that right now. Instead of watching 30 1-minute useless videos, just grab a pencil and watch this, okay? You know what? Get whatever the fuck you need. Just strap it. Like I said, get a pencil, grab whatever you need. We're going deep, okay? Okay, so this is important, and I don't know what it really means. All I'm saying is that 13 cats were murdered in this area, and then there was a reward offered up for it, and then another cat winds up mutilated, wrapped up in the reward poster, and then the cat killings were over. But then, down here, 2 people get stabbed to death in the middle of the night with a large knife, and nobody ever catches who did it. And then, a year later, somebody gets stabbed to death in the middle of the night with a large knife over here. I couldn't help but notice these are in 3 different states, so it seems like 3 different things, you know, but they're just barely in the other states.
It's interesting that all of these unsolved nighttime stabbings happened so close to the border of these states. So it's like, oh, if somebody's right here, they could easily get to this state, this state, this state, this state. And then, oh, if you commit, let's say, 4 murders in these 4 states, maybe they're in certain jurisdictions, and they don't realize that they're so close to a central point that it's just like, they just see them as murders from different states, and they don't realize. It's like, well, it's kind of weird that they're just in the borders of the states. So it's almost like a deliberate thing that somebody's coming out from the inside to do it there. They didn't go very far in because, I don't know, it's almost like this person's not thinking too much about it, but they're thinking a little bit about it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's very interesting. Something to think about. Because, you know, if you're going to murder somebody randomly in the middle of the night, you'd think you would just drive far away from where you live. You know, I don't think that this person that stabbed these people in the middle of the night and got away with it just stopped. And, oh, where did that random brutal killer come from? That's super random. Oh, is it super random? Because there was somebody mutilating animals for a whole year right over here. And then they stopped. And then a human dies. 2 of them murdered in their sleep without a trace. And then, oh, what the fuck? Oh, but then boop, this happens in the same exact fashion. Oh, but there's no serial killer or anything. You know, it's a coincidence, I guess. It's a pretty big coincidence. It's like, okay, so I'm gonna fucking show you some mind-blowing shit. Like, for sure. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna blow your mind a little bit. What it comes down to is, okay, this is where the 13 cats were mutilated over the course of a year-ish, right? Near Olympia. Right where I live. There was all these cats being murdered. And after 13 of them, they stopped, right? So yeah, $54,000 reward was given for any information on this cat killer, and nobody ever came forward with any information. Like, nobody had any fucking idea who was doing this to the cats. That's why they did one last one and took that flyer and wrapped it up and put it on display. And these people have the fucking audacity or the gall or whatever to be like, oh, I wonder if this cat that was slain in the same area, wrapped in that poster, is the same guy. It's like, oh, holy shit, dude. Yeah, it's obvious. It's so obvious it's the same dude. It's so obvious that it's that killer dude, like, rubbing it in your face. And it's fucking fucked up because he did 13 cats, and then he just did the You'll Never Catch Me one. And then the first murder. And then this would have been the second one, right? And this one that just happened would technically be the third. So these two I think are related. This one might not be. But since the cat killings and everything, I think the person lives here and was doing the killings out like that, driving far away from their house. This might be an unrelated killing, but that's what gets to something that's a little bit more sinister. And so it's like, okay, the question is there a serial killer on the loose or worse? And it's like, oh, what's worse? Worse would be people realizing that they can just stab people in the middle of the night and get away with it. So it's an epidemic, in a way, of a bunch of people doing this. Because you have to think about this. This is where it gets interesting. Pay attention. This was the first killing. But one of these people actually survived. This was a couple being stabbed in the middle of the night. Person came in because their door was unlocked. They stabbed him in the middle of the night and they fucking left. But one of the people lived. This, a couple wakes up in the middle of the night to being stabbed, and they fight the guy off, and they're both in like serious condition, but they fight the guy off and the guy runs off and they're recovering in the hospital. And then 4 people get stabbed in the middle of the night. All of them get killed. So, what if all of these are different people? It's almost like which one's worse, if these are all the same person or if they're all different people. Now, where it gets deep and conspiracy-like and to where it gets a little fucked up and to where I don't like talking about it, is this one. They say they caught this person, but I don't believe them. And I hate to say that, but they say that a 15-year-old kid came into this couple's house and stabbed him, but the guy fought him off. And then hours later, they tracked that kid down with drones and arrested him. But there's no pictures, there's no anything. The dude from the hospital says, oh, if I could ever talk to that guy, I would just ask why, and it makes it sound like they don't know who it is and the guy's just lost in the world. Because if they had him arrested in custody, you'd think there would be a court thing where the guy could confront him and talk to him, or at least something, you know what I mean? Because isn't there always a court case? Like, anytime there's a crime, there's a court case, right? Like, I get that he was a minor or whatever, but it's like, there's always a court case, you know? Even if they murdered your family, it's like, oh yeah, you gotta go to court, show up in a suit and go fucking face this guy, right? It's always that, right? Every fucking time. So it's like, I don't know. It's interesting to think about. They, you know, and there's no pictures of the person, there's no anything. Like, the news always has, like, pictures and, like, reports and videos and all this stuff. But they just say that they caught this guy. You know why I think they say that? Because when these people get stabbed in the middle of the night and they fight this guy off, they get saved by their neighbors. And then they're like, you know, I fought him off, and then he ran out the door. And the cops just have to say, oh, that guy that stabbed you in your bed and almost murdered you? Yeah, we have no idea who that was or where he went. So I don't think that that's something that they say. I don't think they have the balls to say we have no idea who did that or where they went. Kind of like in this situation. So that's what happened here. They had to come to a conclusion they don't know who the fuck did it, and it's a cold case now. But then this happens, and then they say they know who did it, and that they arrested him. I'm curious as to where, if they did catch this person in the act, was he related to this one? Did they say anything about it? Did they ask him about it? Did they know for sure that he wasn't related to it? He's related to it in some way because he's doing the same thing. So was it somebody he knew? Did he give him the idea? Did he get the idea from somewhere? It's like, you know. So, but if they're not related, you know what I mean? And in this one, let's say that it is the same person. They go here and they halfway fail. They think they succeed, but one of the people actually survives. They go here, try the same thing. They get their ass kicked, and they run away. The third time they try it, they don't fail. That's what I see. It's interesting to think that the people that did this did the same thing that these people did, but more successfully. Let's say that these are all 3 different people in 3 different attacks. All totally random, totally different people. This person killed twice as many people more successfully. It's interesting because you see what's happening, and it's hard to say. I don't know. I have no idea if these are all the same person or if they're all different people. It's hard to say what happened in this situation. It could have been the two roommates. It could have been the parent. It could be anything. But it's also interesting if these are all three separate situations and they're all the same thing. But it seems like this person was better at it. This person succeeded. Was it because they had practice? Or because, why? So think about that, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. These two incidents would give you the impression that walking up to somebody and stabbing them to death in their sleep is not as easy as it seems. But this person did it. They did 4 people, And so was it their first time? Did maybe they learn something from one of these?
Dr. Jordan suggests the killer has been gradually building up to committing this monstrous deed.
It's relatively rare that this is the first go-to crime for that particular offender. Very often things happen in stages and the person gains confidence over time. People don't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to get a knife and go kill 4 people just to see what it feels like.
And yeah, they say they caught this person and arrested him, but I don't believe it. I don't think that they had the balls to say, yeah, we don't have any idea who stabbed you and ran off. And I think that's what they don't want to say here, but it's just like, but if it's not a serial killer, it's a concerning pattern. And that's another thing that I want to point out. If it's not a serial killer, that is a concerning pattern. Okay, so I'm kind of freaking out right now. I feel like I'm in the Da Vinci Code, or like, it doesn't fucking matter. Okay, I feel like I'm onto some shit, okay? I have fucking goosebumps, and I'm freaking out. Okay, I used to think that this was too many things lined up to be a coincidence. And then a few minutes ago I saw something that made me feel like, now it can't be a coincidence. It'd be such a weird fucking coincidence that it would be too much to deal with. It'd be too ridiculous. It can't be a coincidence. Okay, so I'm ignoring the fact that they think that it's a targeted thing. I think they're just saying that so that the public doesn't get rattled. I think if it was a targeted thing, they would have some sort of a suspect, at least, that they're questioning. The whole bakers can't be choosers thing, it's like they can't be asking the public for help so desperately and also keep information. Like, oh, we think it's targeted because these people were threatened. Okay, well then that's a piece of knowledge you would tell everybody to help with the investigation. Oh, if you think it's a targeted attack because of this, or oh, because they had enemies, or oh, because they owed a lot of money. Okay, all of those would be relevant, and that wouldn't be information that they withhold if they're desperate for answers. Is because, okay, sure that it's obvious that the roommates should be questioned, and it's obvious that those parents seem, whatever. And it's obvious that there's certain suspects, but if those have already been cleared, I'm offering my help and my 2 cents, going off the assumption that all those people have been cleared, and they're looking like with just a big question mark. So that's where I come in. If it really is a big question mark, then we have to look at this cat thing. And then you know what gave me chills and why I freaked out? Because, okay, I paid attention to the cat killings because I thought 13 is a very specific number. The fact that they found 13 dead cats that year, and then they didn't find any more, is like, okay, so that person stopped, and they picked a symbolic number. Because then they did the thing where the cat was wrapped in the thing. But then no more after that, so it's like, okay, 13, and then one more just kind of is like a whatever. The thing that messes me up is those cat killings were in 2018, 2019, and then there's a whole year of nothing. There's this fucking stabbing that happens on the 13th at 3 o'clock. They killed the 13 cats and stopped. There was this stabbing that happened on the 13th at 3 o'clock. This fucking stabbing happened on November 13th at 3 o'clock. So, tell me that that's a coincidence. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that tells us, but I swear to God it's related, dude. And it's messed up because I started looking at the dates because these 2 killings were 13 months apart. And then I was like, wait a minute, there's 13 cats, and then these killings were 13 months apart? But not only that, they were on the 13th.
But it's funny, if it is related to the number 13, I was like, I wonder if any of the addresses are 13. And then I looked at the Idaho thing, and the address was 1122. And I don't know what that means. I could be reading too much into it at that point, you know what I mean? It's a little weird, but it's also kind of a stretch.
Okay, so the cat killings and the first nighttime unsolved stabbing happened a little over a year from each other. And then the first unsolved nighttime stabbing and the second unsolved nighttime stabbing happened a little over a year, right? So yeah, he's waiting a little over a year in between each one. Okay, a year is 12 months. A month and a year, that's 13 months. So I was like, is there really 13 months between these two killings? And I don't think it was, but it was close. And that's what made me see that each date was the 13th. And so that's a very big coincidence. Just those two killings being the same kind of incident, same weapon, same method, same time, not very far from each other. You know, just about far enough to where somebody would go to be like, oh, they're not related. They're super far away from each other. But still, like, somewhere where you can drive in a day. You know what I mean? It's kind of far, but not too far. You know, somewhere where they can go and come back without being like, you know. But so, yeah, just those two killings being the same exact kind of event, the same recipe, happening 13 months apart on the 13th, just that is fucked up. And then you think about the 13 dead cats, and then you think about the trajectory of, like, if somebody was just going to drive away to kill somebody, how we, like, see that's the exact pattern. It's something to think about, you know what I mean? Another thing you have to think about is all of these friends that lived in this house were not a tight-knit group of friends, right? They show the picture of all of them, and they're like, oh, these are all the people that live in the house. You know, they blur the two survivors' faces now, for whatever reason. But they show this picture like, oh, they were all just best friends. But the two survivors were at the house the whole time, right? The boyfriend and girlfriend were at this party, and the two girls were at this other party. So there's three groups of people that were separated. They weren't all one big friend group. And so, okay, if this group, the guy and the girl, piss somebody off at a party and they follow them to murder them, it's not like they're going to murder the whole group of people because they weren't all together. You know, they weren't all hanging out as one group of people. And so it's interesting to think about it that way. It's interesting to think about, okay, why did they kill them but they didn't kill everybody? But then also, why did they kill these people and those people? I think that they were going room by room. And then when they got killed 4 people, they were done. And they felt like they didn't have to continue. And they left. They probably didn't check the other rooms or anything. They just, you know. And what it comes down to is people are like, oh yeah, they were drunk and they had a bunch of parties, or there's a bunch of people in and out of the house, and there was a bunch of people and a bunch of people in and out probably, and it's a big party house. Okay, think about this though. 3 and 4 in the morning is about when everybody's passing out. All the drunk people are, you know, they're either so drunk that they're not really there anymore. They're just sitting on a couch talking to themselves, or, you know, mostly everybody's passed out. And that's when I think a very sober-minded person came from nowhere, looked around at all these fucked up people, you know, walked past half of them probably. They probably just thought that he was just a person at the party. He could have walked right past these people, or there could have been nobody there. But yeah, I think that he just walked up and opened the door. Because think about it, it doesn't seem like it's a drunken, stupid, fumbling thing. And think about it, it's a week later, and the FBI's there, and they're looking for all this evidence, and you know what? They said that the people were sloppy, but it's not so sloppy to where they have the person. So the person that did this did it somewhat well. Because think about it. They killed all the people before they alerted other people. To me, it seems like this person has done this before. If you look at these other stabbings, one of them was sort of a fail. The other one was kind of a fail. And this one's not. It's almost like they're practicing or getting better. These people... Okay, so... a very important question when you look at this crime scene is, do you think that the person that killed these people has done this before? And since the FBI and everybody's there and they're scouring all the shit, and since they still don't have a suspect, either they're very good for their first time or whatever, or maybe they've done it before. Maybe they've had some sort of practice or some sort of something, you know. But I think that you could kill those people and not wake the roommates up or whatever. You know, I used to think, how are you going to sleep through a stabbing? But I think if this person knew what they were doing, or whatever, at least a little bit, and they just go in, and, you know, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. At first, I thought, oh, how would the roommates sleep through a stabbing? Like, it's normally pretty loud and people scream. But then again, a very demented answer to that question is you can't scream very loud if you're drowning in your own blood. So that is one way to silence somebody. So, you know what I mean? Or you could just, you know, You know what I mean? If you have some sort of, you know, you're going to kill them, so you go for the throat or whatever, right? Probably. You just go as many times until they stop moving, right? You try to be fast about it so you can move on. It's like, and they say, oh, what if they just targeted one of the people and then the other people were collateral damage? It's like, okay, you obviously don't know what collateral damage means because all the people were found killed in their beds. Okay, which means the person went to one of the beds, killed the person, left, went to another bed, killed the person, left, went to another room, killed the person, and then killed the person next to him. Collateral damage would be if you go in there, let's say to kill the boyfriend or girlfriend, you go in there and you stab them, and they wake up and they scream, and the other two roommates run down the hallway, and oh, now they saw me, now I have to kill them too. That's what collateral damage is. If they were all killed in their beds, then it's not like he had to, I went there just to kill the one person, but I had to kill all of them. No. If they're all murdered in their sleep, some of them had defensive wounds, oh, that doesn't mean that they were in the hallway, face down. Oh, it doesn't mean that they were, you know what I mean? If they're all found dead in their beds. So it's like, okay. It's just, yeah, if you're targeting, and yeah. It's like, oh, what if she had a stalker? That doesn't mean anything, okay? Like, sure, it's a word, but in reality, if you're actually trying to get to the bottom of this, there's no stalker, okay? That makes no sense, okay? In reality, that is just whatever, dude. Yeah, okay. But it's just like, okay. But also, let's say that it was a stalker. Or let's say that it was the angry ex-boyfriend. Or let's say that it was the parents of this one girl. Then why did they also go down the hallway and kill another person and go into another room and kill that person also? I think they did this because they wanted to. I don't think they targeted him. I think they did it because they wanted to. Because they enjoy it. Or whatever, And I used to think, oh, he'd kill everybody in the house if it was a serial killer. Or, oh, he would have raped him or something. But it's like, and this girl, and everything that everybody says is all speculation. Oh, I think it was targeted because the killing seemed personal. Well, what if the person is just an angry person? Oh, it seemed personal because they stabbed him so many times. It was like they were really mad. Well, what if the person is just a lunatic and they're really mad and that's why they did this? But they're not mad at the person. They're just mad at the world. So their rage that they took out might have looked personal, but it's just, you know what I mean? It's all just hearsay or speculation or just whatever the fuck. Okay, but you know what's funny? This this chick that murdered her football husband, what did she stab him like 784 times? She almost made him vanish with how many times she stabbed him. She pretty much severed him and like just cut him into squares with how many times she stabbed him. She stabbed him so many times it was unrealistic, right? They couldn't even count the stab marks. So yeah, stabbing somebody 19 times or 12 times or however many times, that's just enough times to make sure they die quick enough. You know what I mean? Because sure, you can bleed to death in 12 seconds if you hit them in the right spot, but you can also prolong that death for like 4 to 5 minutes if you're just stabbing in a stupid spot and you're just fucking being an idiot about it. So yeah, if you want to get it done quick, you gotta fucking, this person seems experienced, like they've done it before. Like that would be the reason. Like, I don't know. I could spiral this whole thing, and I have a whole nother video about it. But I don't know. I'm just trying to help, and there's so much to it. But it's just like, if those people really have been cleared, and it's just like, I assume that they have already, interrogated the fuck out of those people. And so if they really are looking for another explanation, then I think a killer has to be the answer, right? Either it's a killer, or people have just, it's just a new fad. People have just started killing people in their sleep, and that's just a new thing that people do, because they realize they can do it,
I want you to know that I didn't even go looking for answers. There's all these fucking YouTube detectives and YouTube sleuths or whatever, and they're breaking down all this stuff, and they're going down all these irrelevant wormholes, and it's like, sure that I've tried to keep up on the case just because it's interesting, and I've been trying to see if they'll figure it out, and I was interested in it for my own reasons, kind of, that I don't even want to get into, because it's like, I have this whole conspiracy of people are switching away from guns and they're using knives because you can get away with it better. It's like bullets will get you caught for a murder, or using a gun will get you caught for a murder. And the world is slowly learning that if you stab somebody, you can get away with it easier. And so, because knives, there's billions of fucking knives everywhere. You go into a house and there's 70. There's 50 in the kitchen. There's 20 over there. There's this. And everything's a fucking knife. Or you can sharpen anything into a fucking knife. And it's just so okay. Because if you can hide the murder weapon or whatever, it's so you can get away with stabbing somebody a lot better than you can get away with shooting somebody. And so, okay, I was originally keeping an eye on this because, I do a YouTube channel and
And it's funny because when I was Googling recent unsolved murders and like recent stabbings, I was trying to do some research. There's so fucking many, dude. Stabbing people is like the new fucking thing, dude. It's like the new thing to do. It's fucking insane. It's to the point where I think that the world is trolling me because I made a gun control video. I made a gun video where I said, hey, it's funny because people are going to tighten down all these gun laws and then everybody's just going to start fucking stabbing everybody. And then that's literally what's happening, dude. I fucking said that, and now it's happening. It's straight up like, I guess I called that or whatever, but it's just like, god damn it. So I think the world's trolling me because so many people get stabbed now. Just all the time. And it's like, as of recently, it's like a whole fucking thing. It's like a whole epidemic of people stabbing people. And so these could all be separate people. But it's an unsettling trend if that's what's happening. Because these 3 attacks and these 3 murders did happen. One, or except for one of them survived. But it was supposed to be an attack, a murder, just like the others. It's not like they went in just to stab him. They went in there to try to kill him, I imagine, right? So yeah, one of them just failed. But it's just like, I don't know. Something to think about. All these killings, so many of these killings. Even in the 80s, the Scream killing, the killings that inspired the movie Scream, so many of these stabbings and these random nighttime killings, the door was unlocked. And so it's almost like, oh, okay, where they just go in door to door, and whichever one was unlocked, it's like, oh, I don't have to break into this house, so it's less likely that I'll get caught murdering these people, because I didn't even have to break in. And it doesn't matter who I kill. Oh, and these people are a sitting duck, so I'll just do that. You know what I mean? I don't know. But they say it's a targeted event. I don't necessarily believe that because, okay, if these people all got cleared, you have to think about this. Okay, so I'm thinking serial killer, not only just because of these side things, but also because, okay, like, yeah, let's just say that, you know, they're telling the truth and that all these people are for sure cleared. They probably just don't want to say that it's a serial killer because they don't want to admit that it's a serial killer and that they don't know who that is. Oh, it's a serial killer. And yeah, we don't know shit. People are going to start asking questions left and right, like, oh my god, are they from there? Are they from... And then they're going to have to say, oh yeah, well, what we think that because of this or that. So I don't know if they admit when there's dangers like that. But it's like, and that's another thing, is we haven't had like a famous serial killer case or anything like this in a long time. And it's super funny that this guy's like, oh yeah, they don't catch on till like the 6th or 7th or 8th or 11th.
Every serial killer investigation that we know that's famous starts out in large agencies that don't get any handle on it until victim 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So
do you think this is a serial killer on the loose, Detective?
I would say no.
But Dr. Jordan and Agent O'Connell say they don't discount it's a serial killer.
There is no way that a person, for the very first time they're committing a crime, murders 4 people. That did not happen.
Okay, well, you know what? You're under arrest. Okay. 4 counts of first-degree murder.
This person has been thinking about it, dreaming about it, fantasizing about it for a very long time.
Are we dealing with a serial killer?
I'm hoping that what is happening here is that the police do have information that they just cannot give out, and that it's not some madman out there looking to kill college students.
About that is, okay, so all the famous serial killers, the ones that he's mentioning, all of their victims were just missing people, right? And so it's harder to get a sense for a serial killer when there's just missing people, because you don't know if the people are missing, if they're all from different places. Yeah, I can see why they get 11 before you realize a pattern, you know? But I think about Dexter. You know, Dexter's a crime TV show for those that don't know. It's probably a terrible way to explain it, but so in that show, every season there's a different killer, and they all have like a different calling card or like a thing that they do or like a different way that they kill, right? And so I think that that's kind of the same in real life. Everybody has like the thing they do for killers, right? And it's probably like they found out whatever worked for them and then they just continue to do it. But yeah, so like Ted Bundy and fucking Dahmer, there was people just missing until they went into their house and like found all the stuff or whatever, you know, it was just missing people. But let's say that, for instance, there's a killer that like cuts people's heads off and then glues them into their hands. And it's like, oh, we have the fucking, you know, Sleepy Hollow killer. It shouldn't take very many of those murders before you catch on to a pattern. You know what I mean? And so I think that if stabbing somebody in the nighttime, 4 in the morning, especially on the 13th, if there's a pattern like that, it's something to look out for, definitely, right? But even just the stabbing people in their sleep, it's like, that's an unsettling pattern either way, you know, whether it's the same person or not. And so you need to look into what that means, right? Because yeah, people are just doing that now. And it's like, what can we do to stop them other than locking our doors or like shooting them or whatever the fuck? But I think that that's the point, is that these people are like making a challenge of it. Like, they try to get to you and kill you before you wake up or before you can even get to your gun. You know, that's why they don't break in, you know. They look for a door that's open so that they can just come in silently. And they come into at a time that they know you're going to just be asleep and vulnerable. So it's all fucked. It's like, okay, so if I point this out, do you not already see a trend? Do you really have to wait for 11 more people? Because it's like, okay, 13, that's a super specific number. And then they just stop killing animals. Oh, but then they kill one more just to wrap it up in the poster. They're like, oh, I wonder if this is related. I guarantee you it's related. And then that filleted dog, okay, if that's a super random thing, okay, well, that's no longer a super random thing.
In that house specifically.
So do you believe that this dog that was filleted like a fish is connected to this quadruple homicide?
I think that we could pass over that and put that in the file to get to sometime. But they need to stay on point, and I think they've stayed on point fairly well on this. Now they've turned to the public.
It's funny. This is how these fucking killers get away. Is because this guy's like, oh yeah, you can think about that dog, but I think we should stay focused. But okay, maybe that's why you haven't caught him yet. Because you're not thinking outside the box. Oh, stay focused? Okay, how's this for staying focused? Washington's over here, Idaho's over here, Oregon's over here. How's this for staying focused? Around Washington, there's a bunch of animal mutilations. And then just a little further away, a murder. Over here, an animal mutilation. And then the murder. So, it's interesting that before each of these murders, there was animal mutilation. I'm thinking that they reside around Olympia area and they're going far to do these things. But the cat killings were a local thing, you know? But you know what I mean? It's my theory. But yeah, there's already a trend. So you know how I know about all this? Okay, so I pretty much live right next to Olympia. I live in Tacoma, but I live in a part of Tacoma I couldn't be closer to Olympia pretty much. So when this whole cat killing thing was happening, I was like keeping updated with it. And I was like worried about my cat. I was like, if anybody kills my cat, I'll go taken status and I'll like track them down and fucking like... So there's already a specific trend of people being stabbed in their sleep in the night. Okay? This person, whoever did this first murder, they had a recipe that worked. They got away with it. Oh, I went in the middle of the night and I stabbed these people. And then I left. I drove far enough away. I never got caught. So they did the same thing again. That's my theory.
But yeah, let's say that it is a serial killer from Olympia. An interesting thing about that would be the second killing is twice as far away and twice as many people. Because let's just say they do live in Olympia. So yeah, the Oregon killing, let's say that it was like 400 miles away or something. So yeah, if you look at Olympia and you go here, you're like, okay, the first killing was 400 miles away and it was 2 people. And then a year later when they do the second killing, they drive the other direction twice as far and kill twice as many people.
And it's just kind of interesting to think that, like, okay, so there is a person in Oregon or, you know, around that area that got away with murder, you know? That person did get away with that crime. So there's a person out there that, you know, per se lives in this area that did get away with murder, right? And so everybody thinks, oh, well, you know, killers that do stuff like that, they, you know, would do it again, you know? And it's funny because it's a year later, and that place is the opposite direction, in a different state, twice as far, twice as many people. But okay, but go back. But so, let's say that, yeah, so the Oregon person is, you know, a killer that didn't get caught, no matter what the circumstance was. If it was a hitman, if it was a whatever, if it was a political, if it was a whatever. Either way, somebody murdered somebody and didn't get caught. And so, you know, everybody thinks, oh, well, those people probably will strike again. And they'll probably use the same method. If they got away with it, they would do the same thing. And so it's funny, if they're a superstitious person, they might even do it on the same night. You know? Oh, I killed that person on the 13th. You know, and I just drove 6 hours away. And I just stabbed him and left. So if I do the same thing, and if I do it on the 13th, you know, and I go twice as far that way, I can probably do twice as many people. It's just interesting to think of, you know. But yeah, it's just funny to think that, what if it's not the person? It's like, okay, so this Oregon person is going to strike again, and they're probably going to use the same method, because that's how they got away with it the first time. But this, and it's been a year, And you would think that they're going to strike again. Oh, but it's not. But this event isn't them. It wouldn't be them. This event wouldn't be them. But it's like, okay, let's say it wouldn't be them. Is the Oregon person connected to the cat mutilations at least? You know, are those two related? Because, you know, if those are related, you do have to think about the filleted animal over here. And maybe they know who slaughtered that dog or whatever, and they're just not saying it. That'd just be super annoying, though, because, you know, we're just trying to help with the investigation. So the more we know, and the more facts we have straight to investigate or try to tie things together with, you know, the better, obviously. So it's like... But it's just funny because, yeah, it's like, oh, that person would strike again, and they're probably going to do it the same way and everything. Oh, but this person, that's not them. I mean, they did it the same way at the same time, even coincidentally on the same day, about a year later. And there's even coincidentally a dead animal over there also, like in the same kind of weird, sadistic way. But yeah, I don't think they're related. And it's like, okay, all right. I mean, yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, I could be way off, you know what I mean? But if the case goes super cold, it's something that you might want to look at, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, we are waiting for that killer to strike again. Oh my god, that's the same goddamn... It's not even that far away. Or it is far away, but if you think about that they live, you know, over there, it makes sense that, you know, it's not that far away from them. It's like, I don't know, you know what I mean? But it's like, but either way, it's on the same coast, it's in the same country, it's in the same area, at least. So it's like, and I think they would be going in different jurisdictions or in different state lines just to make it so that they seem unrelated, right? I mean, if I was a killer or something, or if you're trying not to get caught, or you're just trying, you know, you would think that you would try to, you know, maybe put it in different jurisdictions or something, right? I mean, I don't fucking know. Yeah, you know what I mean? No. It's just kind of weird. It's just a bunch of weird things to line up at once. And it's not like, it's just such specific things, because people don't, you know, just, you know, it's very rare for there just to be an epidemic of animal mutilations. Like, I could be wrong, but I don't think that happens all the time. You know what I mean? I don't think that, you know, and so that's kind of a weird coincidence. Those two things happening in those two states. And it's like, oh, but the Oregon one's in an even different state. But it's like, oh yeah, but they're all in the same little area, though. You know what I mean? This Idaho town just happens to be just barely in the border of it all. I mean, I can see how it seems unrelated. But, you know what I mean? I don't know. Just, like I said, if the case goes cold, just something you might want to look at, right? Because it is a weird coincidence, because the stabbing people in the nighttime is also a kind of specific thing. And that's why it makes you wonder about the Utah thing. Because, okay, that's even in the same area, on the same coast, kind of, you know, the same country, in the same, you know, it's a very specific thing. Like, you would think that maybe we'd hear about that all the time, but it's like, then in the news recently they talk about this stabbing of the same exact profile, or whatever you'd say, in 1999. And it's like, okay, well, that's fucking weird also, because that also seems kind of unrelated because it was so long ago, but it's also one of those weird cases because it's also in the same fucking weird little area. So it's like, goddamn, you know, fucking aliens probably. That's, oh no, great, now it's aliens. So awesome. That's why we're not going to catch them. But, you know, it's just kind of weird. You know, like, what does that mystery mean? Maybe it's just a weird coincidence. I mean, I guess, you know, it would just have to be, I guess, or something, right? Or, I don't know. Things to look into, though. If that one person survived being stabbed, and that couple, you know, I think that if the FBI is going to investigate this whole thing, their investigations should start with the Utah couple that survived being stabbed. And you should see if that person actually did get caught, or if the news just said that, right? Because if you're the FBI, I mean, maybe you know that the news lies, or maybe the cops lie. I mean, I don't fucking know, right? I mean, you could see if there really is a serial killer on the loose and they were just lying to the public to make them feel better. You could investigate that lead and not tell anybody. Right? You don't have to make that public knowledge. You could just chase the killer. You can just see if that lead goes anywhere. You don't have to tell anybody that they lied about it, right? You know? Because I almost don't think they caught that person. Because isn't there always a court case? Like, anytime there's a crime, there's a court case, right? Like, I get that he was a minor or whatever, but it's like, there's always a court case, you know? Even if they murdered your family, it's like, oh yeah, you gotta go to court, show up in a suit and go fucking face this guy, right? It's always that, right? Every fucking time. So it's like, I don't know. It's interesting to think about. You can investigate that lead. Because these stabbings, I mean, they could all be related. And it could even be related to the one in 1999. But that means the person's way older than I thought they'd be. So it's like, who fucking knows, you know? But it's like something to look into. Even if you think that the one's targeted, and you know. But if you really just have no other suspects, it's, you know, it's something definitely to look into. It's a better lead than trying to find a stalker. Because, okay, how are you, you know.
Like, whether the stalker exists or not, like, let's say they do exist, but they have no idea who it is, so, okay, it's kind of irrelevant then. You know what I mean? Because it goes back to everybody being a suspect. But it's just like, okay, so...
That's just, I feel like that's just such a deceiving lead, and it's just meant to just, you know. I have a whole other theory that's just, I recently thought of another theory that's just like, it's more controversial, but it's just like, barely matters. Anyways, back to the whatever the fuck. It's interesting to think about it like this. Okay, so there is a serial killer on the loose. Or, let's phrase it like this. There is a murderer that's loose, right? That has not been caught. There's an unknown murderer somewhere on the West Coast, right? And so, whether this person is a hitman or a serial killer in the making or in the training or whatever, or whether they're just, I mean, I don't know what are the other options. But yeah, so the question is, though, let's say that, okay, some weird magical fantasy land, let's say that you know, they find out that this Idaho stabbing, okay, it's fucking Kaylee's sister. And they find out that she fucking stabbed all 4 of them. And they're like, what the fuck? And they're like, that's super fucking random. Okay, so do they investigate if she did the Oregon thing? And would they do the Oregon thing? Because, okay, let's just say that coincidentally or whatever, it turns out that the cat thing is just unrelated. And that just had us going in a weird direction or something, because, I don't know, life's weird. And so, okay, that just turns out to be something unrelated. And, okay, so that is in another state than the other two, so, okay, sure, that makes sense. Let's say that that's unrelated, but the 2 killings are related, because that's too many coincidences to line up at once, right? So let's say that those are at least related, okay? And then the 2 animals kind of popping up is just a weird thing that, okay, so yeah, maybe that's, just say that that's not even related or whatever, and that that's just a weird coincidence. So, whoever killed these 4 people, it's like, have they killed before? And if so, did they kill this person in Oregon and try to kill this couple or whatever, and or this couple in Utah? Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say in a really long way is, okay, so yeah, there's, you know, a serial killer, somebody that can just stab somebody in their sleep, is a sort of a rare thing, right? It only happens every now and again. And so the question, I guess, is that's important is whether this person's a hitman or not. There is a killer in this area, and you know, if those 2 aren't related, then there's 2. And so I guess that's sort of a weird thing. That okay, so do you think that there is a serial killer on the loose, or 2, or maybe even 3? But yeah, what do you think is more likely? That there's 3, or that there's 2, or that there's 1? You know what I mean? But that's what's weird, is because, yeah, maybe this Idaho thing could be like the main event, and they were like building up to it. It's like, I don't know how long they were trying to plan this or whatever. But it's like, but yeah, and you'd think that maybe people don't like practice stuff like that. But then again, it seems like, okay, so where I'm coming from is, okay, let's say that her sister killed her just because of the boyfriend thing. Okay, well, guess what? She wouldn't have killed him over the boyfriend thing unless she's a killer to begin with, or just a fucked up person to begin with. So yeah, maybe it wasn't training, but maybe they went out and they did this thing, and then when this thing happened personal to them, then they really acted, you know, or something. You know what I mean? Because like, seems like they've had practice. And let's say that it's her ex-boyfriend, or it's a stalker, or it's Kaylee. Did they want to get practice? And or it doesn't really matter, because either way the person enjoys it, right? So that's another thing to think about. Either way, they enjoy it. So whether this was their first time or not, or whether it's like, or over here was this person's first time or not, it kind of seems like, okay, they both enjoy it. You know, so yeah, is there 1 serial killer, or is there 2? They just so happen to be in the same area at the same time. So yeah, I think that it could just be 1 killer. And even if they are personally related to the Idaho situation, they could still be related to this one. This one could just be more closer to home, literally, or whatever, for him. But that one's still close enough to where, I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't fucking know. I could be way off. But it's just something to think about. You know, and it could be a group of people. It could be 2 people. But I think it was 1 person. So, and another thing to think about when it comes to the serial killer thing. Okay, so let's forget about all the human murders, okay? Let's forget about all the people that have died really quick. And let's just think about the animal mutilations. Okay, so there's a bunch of animal mutilations around Olympia. When one of the animal mutilations was like a clever, dumb kind of thing, you know. The killer knew that they weren't going to get caught, and so they took one of the posters that they found, and they killed another cat just to put the flyer on the cat or wrap it up. And then just, in my mind, the only reason they did that is to be like, you're never going to catch me, and here's proof to rub it in your faces. So the last cat was just to rub it in their faces, okay? That they're not going to catch him. So let's think, is that person done mutilating animals? Let's say that they're not ever going to kill a person. Are they done mutilating animals, though? Because let's say they just mutilate animals. Okay, did they mutilate this dog over here then? Because you would think that this is like, maybe you think this is a common thing. Maybe people mutilate animals all the time, everywhere, all the time. But see, the reward for this cat killer and the fact that this dog is like in the news makes me feel like the people don't mutilate animals all the time. And that comes back to another thing. What kind of person could kill 4 people? You know what I mean? Because think about it. Let's say it's a road rage incident and they like followed them back and then they're like, okay, that's where they live. I'm going to come back in the nighttime. A of all, why did they kill the roommates then? And B of all, how did they go in and stab the person and then be like, not feel bad? Like if they've never done it before and it was a crime of passion, like, oh, they pissed me off and I'm going to go do it, then there's a chance that they feel bad or whatever, or scared or something afterwards, and they don't continue to do it to 3 other people. And so another thing to think about is, okay, let's say that somebody did target these people in particular. They're like, okay, these 4 people I want dead. Okay? And let's say that they're a stalker. They know where they live, they know their ins and outs, you know? Or let's say it's a family member or an ex-boyfriend or a friend or an acquaintance. Or let's say it's somebody that does know him and they wanted to kill him. They could wait for an opportune moment. I don't think that if they wanted him dead, they think, oh, I'm going to go murder him in their house and get away with it. I don't think that they'd assume, you know, this person is very lucky that they haven't caught him. You know what I mean? They're very lucky. Like if this person was just a crime of passion, like a road rage thing, and they went in there and they stabbed him, they're probably so confused that they haven't caught him. They're like, oh my God, I really just got away with that? And they have the FBI there? And but no, okay, so think about it. But also, yeah, if it was somebody like a stalker or a family member or somebody that knew them, they could wait for an opportune moment. Like, oh, wait for them to go camping and then maybe they'll just disappear. Or they'll, you know. And so to add on to that they wouldn't just go to their house and murder them and leave a whole messy crime scene. You know, they would wait for an opportune moment, or maybe they would just become missing people. Because if the people didn't think that they could kill them and get away with it, they would try to put as much distance between getting caught as possible. So the people would just disappear. They wouldn't be found dead instantly. You know what I mean? But another thing is, so let's just say that, yeah, the animal mutilations, one of them happened over here, and then one of them happened over here. And they say that this dog was filleted and butchered and prepared as if it was to be eaten, which is like a sadistic, ridiculous, fucked up thing to do. Kind of like, you know, butchering 13 cats, and then when there's reward, because they can't catch you and they're so concerned, you just butcher another one and just to rub it in everybody's faces. So, okay, there's a sadistic person out in the world. Let's say they're not a murderer or whatever, but they're killing cats and doing all that. So there is a sadistic person out there, right? And everybody thought, oh, okay, yeah, if somebody's doing that to cats, they're going to move on to people. And then, you know, there's a year between the cat killings, and then this happens with the dog. Okay, so yeah, there's no cat killings for a year. And then in Idaho, there's a dog mutilation done in the same, oh, this person thinks they're funny and clever kind of a way. An animal butcher in sort of a clever, dumb, oh, they think they're funny kind of way. You know what I mean? So let's say they didn't murder people. This animal murderer did go from Washington to Idaho, coincidentally. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons that I don't think that the Utah or whatever, the murder down there, that's another reason I don't think that that's related. But it's also weird because it's all in the same area, you know? And some of you might be thinking, oh, okay, yeah, that looks close on a map, but that's really far. Like, those places are not close to each other. Somebody would not be driving to those places just to kill somebody. And okay, but if this person doesn't have a life, right? Maybe they do have a job, maybe they do go to school, maybe they do whatever, but if they don't, like, have friends or life, or maybe they're a lunatic or an antisocial, you know, person or whatever, they just drive in the middle of the night and, like, oh, my alibi was I was sleeping. You know, and they just drive in the middle of the night. These places are far enough away. You ever hear the fucking phrase, like, you don't shit where you sleep or whatever? Like, yeah, that's another thing that makes me feel like the killer is not from Idaho, because all these people, like, I refuse to go back to school until this person's caught. But it's like, I think that the person's from Washington, or at least not from around there. I think that wherever they're from, they're driving a decent amount to get to the places, right? Because that's the thing that you do. You don't, like, kill, like, right in your town or whatever. I mean, I don't know, maybe you do. I mean, some people obviously do. But there's a lot of factors, you know? It's just like, yeah, they could have just, if somebody wanted to kill them in particular, they could have done it any number of ways. This crime seems like it was done because they wanted to do it this way, and it didn't matter who the person really was. That's what I think. And so, okay, another interesting thing is, okay, all these stabbings, okay, well, yeah, the first thing, every stabbing like this ever that's in the past that has been resolved. There's one on Netflix where this guy just went down the road and stabbed a random family. There's the Scream killings where he just fucking, the doors were unlocked and he went in and stabbed people. And then there's this one in Oregon, let's say it's not related. Okay, their door was unlocked. Okay, in Utah, okay, let's say it's unrelated. Well, their door was unlocked. Like so many of these stabbings, and there's other examples too, but it's like all of those were random events. Random, non-targeted events. And okay, so another reason that they say that they're targeted killings, okay, so what's the opposite of a targeted killing? A random killing. So I just don't think that they want to admit that 4 people were killed randomly. Somebody just, because that insinuates or pretty much just says that there's a serial killer, you know, if somebody just randomly killed 4 people. But that is the truth of what's happening, though. You know, whether it was a stalker, whether it was a roommate, the fact of the matter is there is a serial killer because you have to kill 4 people to become a serial killer. But the question is this their first 4 people? You know? And yeah, there's all sorts of things with the animal being close to the area. And then that happens a month later. And then it's just like, I don't know. And that's another thing, though, is yeah, let's say that it was like a friend or, you know, an acquaintance. Okay, why did they stab him in their sleep, though? You know what I mean? Did they at least hear that happened somewhere else and that person wasn't caught? I mean, because yeah, that's what's interesting, is that if this all is different people, then that means that there's 2 nighttime stabbers on the loose. You know, if the Oregon one and the other one isn't related, and let's say that they didn't catch the person in Utah or whatever, then that means there's 3 nighttime stabbers on the loose. So if they're all on the loose, and you know, they might do it again if they got away with it the first time. So it's like, okay, there's either 1 or 4 nighttime stabbers roaming around the world somewhere. Also, a lot of these stabbings, if not all of them, the door was unlocked. So okay, and there's like no camera footage. So okay, this person knows that they don't have a camera. It's like, how did they know that all these people don't have cameras? And it's like, okay, do they work for a cable company or do they work for somewhere that was able to scope the place out without having to just go there and scope it out suspiciously? So, okay, or maybe they did scope places out suspiciously. They're checking doors at 4 in the morning. This is why it's a good idea for anybody in the neighboring houses to check a Ring camera if they have it. Because maybe the person was checking doors just to see if they were unlocked, and they think, oh, they're not going to check the footage unless something happened. So if they walk up to a house and they're like, oh, they don't have a camera and the door's unlocked, that's a perfect place. If you don't care who you murder and you just want to murder somebody, then yeah. And yeah, that's another thing, is I have security cameras around my house. But yeah, people don't check their cameras because they constantly record, and then after it's recorded for a week, it starts like overwriting the footage. So yeah, you don't go back and watch every minute of every day, you know? Maybe some people hire them to go through the footage or something. But yeah, you normally go back if something happens to watch the footage, right? So if you're checking doors at 4 in the morning to see if one's unlocked because you're a killer, then yeah, you're not worried about people catching you on camera, because the places that, yeah, let's say you go up and see a camera, maybe you just automatically turn around and leave. You're like, okay, that place is not there. And then you go up to another place, they don't have a camera, so you check the door. I mean, I don't know, you know. But another thing is, okay, all of these, like the Scream, the fucking Netflix, the fucking, all these ones that happened within the year, all of these, the door was unlocked. And so it's interesting because I read on one of these things where the reasons that the roommates didn't know that they were butchered is because the person locked the door when they left. Like maybe the roommates even survived because they locked their doors. Maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe they thought, oh, if I have to kick this door down or break this door down, that's enough evidence to maybe track this back to me. But the doors that were unlocked, you know, if they did go in there and kill the people and then lock the doors and leave, that's also an interesting, weird kind of message, maybe, you know? Or it's a weird thing to also think about. But I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. This all just makes me feel like a lunatic to say all these things. I just feel like such a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, oh, this thing and this thing and this thing. You know how we know it's fucked? Not only is the FBI there, but and everything. You know they're getting desperate when one of the suspects is just somebody that was standing next to them earlier that night. The guy at the taco truck. So why was he a suspect again? Oh, cause he was seen next to him. Like, wasn't that literally it though? Like, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but wasn't that it? Oh, we seen this guy that looked at him or something, and he like made a gesture. It's like, oh yeah, he massacred all 4 of them because he looked at these girls, or he's a suspect because he was just seen at the same place that they were seen. It's like, okay, so if you guys are so desperate, it's like, okay, so like and it's funny because when I saw this, when I look at those 2 killings, Oregon and then Idaho, I think about if I just wanted to murder somebody in the middle of the night, but yeah, the same trajectory of like how far they drove, it's like if I was going to go commit random murders in the middle of the night, being somebody that pretty much lives in Olympia, I would drive about that far. Oh, and then I would drive in the opposite direction, super far. It seems like a good trajectory if somebody lives around here. But the thing that, okay, so it was the same kind of event. They stabbed him at the nighttime. Their door was open. They didn't have to break in. They just opened the door. They stabbed the people. They left. Yeah, it's the same recipe all these times, right? And so, because, okay, all of these stabbings have been happening recently, and let's say it's not the same person, then okay, is it just a trend now to stab people in their sleep? Because that's what it seems like. It's either a person or a trend. Maybe it's like a new TikTok challenge, like, oh yeah, that's almost what it seems like. Because let's say that all these events were different people, and they all had the same method. So okay, there's some rumor going around that this method works, you know? And seeing this on the news, it's going to reiterate that to people. Oh, as long as you go in the middle of the night and you just, kill them and leave. So that's not good for people to have that mindset or to think that that's possible or whatever. So that's probably why the cops are saying, oh yeah, it's a targeted thing. But think about it. Like, what does it mean to be targeted? So this makes me think of, there was a case recently where this whole family got murdered. And they burned the house down. And a few years later, they found out it was a biker gang. This guy owed money. He killed this guy's whole family and burned his house down. But it didn't take him very long to track down, at least, that it was somebody from a gang that he owed money to. They might not have known who it was, but they knew what to look for, you know what I mean? And other targeted things, it's like there would be a reason. It's like, oh, do they owe money to the cartel? Oh, well, that would be known, either through text messages or something, you know what I mean? And so all these things that would make them targeted would be known. And they're like, oh, well, how did they pick this house? Oh, well, it's such a random house. Think about this. You're like, I'm just going to go kill somebody. And you get in your car and you just drive for like 6 hours. And you're like, oh, I'm going to drive that way 6 hours and drive back 6 hours. And that's like me sleeping by 12 hours away. You know, they go to this place. So let's just say that you drive and you just try to get lost and you just drive and drive and drive and you try to get so far that you're like, in such a random place. I don't know anybody around here. I don't even know what this town's called. I'm just in such a random bumfucking random ass place. And then you just pick a house. You go in there and you kill them. Now think about this. That house is going to belong to someone. It's going to seem super random and super picked. But any place that you pick is going to be somewhere. It's like, oh, why here? Oh, I don't know, I just picked somewhere. You just happened to be the place I picked. You know what I'm saying, though? Ever since COVID, people have been, like, getting away with crimes left and right. And I swear that it's just, like, some fad. And it's like, God damn it. We do not need that to be a trend where people just go around killing people in their sleep because they know they can get away with it. It's super fucked up. But yeah, this case reminded me of a few cases. The Scream case. And this case, I think it was on Netflix, like Interview with a Killer or something. This guy literally talks about how one day he just snapped and got super mad. He got a kitchen knife from his drawer, just walked down the road into one of his neighbor's house, and stabbed his entire family to death. And I think one of the daughters like survived or something. And he killed like 5 other people in the house. And he talks about how he just didn't care. He just snapped and he just went into a random house and he just didn't give a fuck. And so it's like people definitely do that. In these other instances, this teen or whatever that stabbed these people and then fucking ran off into the night, so they're lucky they lived. This would have been one of these murders. So let's pretend that this couple actually did die. These would all be the same style murder. There is a trend. How this guy's like, oh, it takes like 5 or 6 before we find a trend. Okay, well, this is like the 3rd or 4th or whatever now, or whatever. So it's like, whether it seems that way or not, or people just have the same idea in the same area all of a sudden. So it's like, you know, that's another thing that makes you think it's a serial killer. It's like, you know, in movies or anything, every time there's a serial killer, it's the FBI is coming because it's like a crazy case that they can't figure out or whatever. You know, they don't bring the FBI in just for like, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. But anyways, I don't know. Hope that helped or whatever. Stay safe out there. You know, if you want to be cheered up and you want to laugh, you can go to my page. I do comedy. But I'm all over the place. I do comedy and other things. I don't know. You know, subscribe if you want to. I don't care, you know.